Okay, hi everybody. This dude is meant to symbolise Crawford. He's a bit grumpy. His big green eyes. Across green is jealousy. See, green symbolises jealousy. And we know that Crawford is a bit jealous of people with talent, because he's a frustrated writer. Anyway, let's get started on this vid lesson. So this particular vid is talking about, just going through some of the key ideas from question 4, which asks you to address the following. So we know that old Crawford baby, he of the green-eyed grumpies, Crawford has got a really harsh attitude to lots of his students, and in particular to Jamal. For heaven's sake, why? Why on earth? You're being asked to consider about why you wanted to win this battle. Like, why was it such a battleground? For Crawford, because there's Crawford, look, he's clearly not smiling, and there's, the students, and they're not happy either. And he's standing up in this big position of power. So the classroom becomes this battleground. Why does he want to win this battle? And how is it actually effective as a teaching, as a learning environment? Well, clearly they're not smiling, are they? So I'd say not. Then you're also asked to consider how his approach, how Crawford's approach, Grumpy's approach, so here he is again, his approach to teaching to Forrester, who can be a bit grumpy, but how is their approach different? It's no longer a battleground. Get rid of all that grumpy stuff. How is it different, and how does it affect Jamal as a learner? And in doing that, you need to think about these different teaching styles and which one and the effect they have on students, and make any comparisons to today. So that sounds like a heck of a lot to do. So basically, what does Crawford do? Would it work today? You could say no. How does what Crawford how is it different to what Forrester does? And what does Forrester do that is similar or not to today, and what's the effect on students? So being asked to compare and contrast Crawford and Forrester's styles and make a comparison to today. Okay, so you need to think about, in essence, how do Jamal and his classmates react? How does Jamal react to Crawford and Forrester, and what is similar to today? And how do his classmates react to Crawford, and what is similar or not to today? And really, Crawford has a distinct lack of respect for his students. So in doing this, you need to show some kind of understanding of Crawford. And let's have a look at the big C, Mr. Crawford, or whatever his name is, Professor Crawford. He's a frustrated writer, okay? And so therefore he kind of resents his students, doesn't he, because of the things that, things that he says. He puts them down to make himself feel better. So you could have a paragraph on all these, or not. You would have a paragraph on that, and then you would make a comparison to today, or make a comparison to Forrester. I would suggest that you spend a paragraph on Crawford and a paragraph on Forrester, and with your essay, rather than just writing completely about one and then the other. Anyway, back on track. Crawford judges Jamal, and that doesn't help Jamal. He judges Jamal because Jamal comes from the Bronx. So to show this understanding of Crawford as a frustrated writer who resents his students, there you go, that's a sentence, isn't it? And puts them down to make himself feel better. That's the second sentence even in a paragraph, if you wanted to. You need to talk about key events that prove that. And he judges Jamal, so you need to talk about key events that prove that. And in doing so, you also need to identify some quotes. Now, when you're discussing a key event, I don't want every little detail from that event in there, okay? We don't need it. We don't need it all, because it gets messy. It's just a whole pile of information. What I want you to do is to keep it simple. Keep it simple. Bit of a description, and then I want more on the explanation of I'm writing this upside down, on the effect, okay, of the students, and then some kind of comparison. Oops, squashing up, okay? So a little bit of a description of what was going on, but then more of an explanation and analysis. So you pick an event for Crawford, you talk about the effect it has on Jamal and the students, and you can make you do a contrast with today, or a contrast with Forrester. With Forrester, you pick an event, you talk about the effect it has on Jamal, and you can do a bit of a contrast with Crawford and a comparison to today. You got it, in essence. Now, so, to understand Crawford, what are some of the key ideas about him? Well, he was a successful writer. He only wrote one book though, didn't he? Or only had one book published. He has problems. Okay, he lost his family. He blames himself for his brother's death due to drink driving. He works with Jamal. Crawford works against them. Crawford belittles them. Crawford does challenge them in a way that makes the students feel they don't want to contribute to learning. Forrester, for his grumpiness, works with Jamal. He still challenges Jamal, but he encourages him. He does it in a respectful manner. He does it in a way that shows Jamal that he's interested. And once again, events and quotes that support it, and the same thing applies. Not too much detail when you're describing an event. Keep it simple. Alrighty, so we'll talk about comparing it to today. Okay, the old comparing it to today. In essence, you can do a whole paragraph on this if you want to spend more time on comparing it, because as you're going through and talking about Crawford and Forrester, you can make those like a sentence link to today, how it would work, or how it's similar or it wouldn't work. But then you can have a paragraph if you want to, just to explain the general attitude that prevails in the classroom today, which hopefully is one that's more helpful and respectful for learning. And the teacher doesn't go around calling students by their last name only, which holds them at a distance like it does with Crawford. They call them by their first name. So anyway, would Crawford's attitude work in an Australian classroom? Explain. Give me some examples, okay? Don't just say it would or it wouldn't. I want e.g. And consider, okay? Let me get my card. Sorry, it's always the one at the bottom. Okay. Therefore, does Crawford create a positive learning environment? And how? Does Forrester create a positive learning environment? So when you ask, now I know I've got lots of information in here, but what I'm trying to do is just communicate the same information in a couple of different ways. So in essence, does Forrester create a positive learning environment? Give me some examples and say how he does. Compare it to Crawford, make a link to today. Does Crawford create a positive learning environment? Give me some examples. Compare it to Forrester briefly, make a link to today. And then you can, if you want to, spend a whole paragraph on today. What would work? And talk about what happens with examples. Talk about examples in the current classroom of today. So I hope that's helpful. Yeah, that's it.